one of the errors people make in business, and sometimes it can be a huge error, is that they try and measure every deal against the best deal that they've ever made. So they say, I'd made this wonderful deal for maybe an insurance policy written, it might be a company bought, it might be a stock bought, and they're determined that they're never going to make a deal that isn't that attractive in the future. And so they, in effect, sometimes they take themselves out of the game. The goal is not to make a better deal than you've ever made before. The goal is to make a satisfactory deal. It's the best deal that you can make at the time. And Charlie relates it to marriage, and I'll let him expand on that.
No, those are, of course, we're going to make different deals at different times based on different opportunity costs. There's no other rational way to make deals.
One of the most important things that drive people are incentives. But if you live in a rich society, it's very hard to get your kids to work hard and reach their full potential because they just don't need to. So if you or Charlie decide to have a kid in the next 5 years,
there'll be a star in the east.
It will take more than a decision.
how would you incentivize him or her?
I thought you were going to say, how would you? No, it's a good question. I apologize for interrupting.
How would you incentivize him or her to compete against the hungry and highly motivated kids from emerging markets like China, Brazil, Russia, or India?
Yeah, I think certainly that if you are very rich and you bring up your kids to think that they are more important in society, or that they have some special privilege simply because they came out of the right womb, that's just a terrible mistake. But Charlie has raised 8 children that I know quite well, most of them, and I don't think any of them have that sense. But if you really are going to raise your kids to think that other people should do all the work for them, and that they will be entitled to sit around and fan themselves for the rest of their lives, I mean, you will probably not get a good result. Charlie's been rich most of the time when many of his kids were growing up. Some of his kids were growing up. I've been rich while my kids were certainly when they got into high school and college. But I certainly didn't want to give them the idea that they were special just because their parents were rich. And I don't think you necessarily have to get a bad result or have children that don't have any incentives simply because their parents are rich. The one thing I don't think you want to give them an incentive to do is try and outdo their parents at what their parents happen to be good at. I don't think that makes sense, whether you're a professional athlete or a rich person or whatever it may be, a great novelist, or you name it. But I really think if you're rich and your kids turn out to have no incentives, I don't think you should point at them. I think you should probably point at yourself. Charlie?
Well, I don't think you can raise children in an affluent family and have them love working 60 hours a week in the hot sun digging fence post holes or something. That's not going to work. So to some extent you are destroying certain kinds of incentives. And my advice to you is to lose your fight as gracefully as you can.
I'm not sure if you're poor, if you can get your kids to love the idea of working 60 hours a week. They may have to, but
the kids that really get interested in something will work no matter how rich they are. But it's rare to have an Ajit-like intensity of interest. If you were a proctologist, you might not like your day as it went on and on.
In a period of high inflation, which particular businesses owned by Berkshire Hathaway will perform the best, and which will perform the worst, and why?
Well, the businesses that will perform the best are the ones that require little capital investment to facilitate inflationary growth and that have strong positions that allow them to increase prices with inflation. And we have a candy business, for example, and the value of the dollar since we bought that candy business has probably fallen at least 85%, I would say, 80 to 85%. And that candy business sells 75% more pounds of candy than it did when we bought it, but it has 10 times the revenues, and it doesn't take a lot more capital. So that kind of a business, any business that has enough freedom to price to offset inflation and doesn't require commensurate investment or a huge investment to support it, will do well. Businesses like our utilities, which get, in effect, a bond-like return, but require, if you're going to build a generating plant, it costs twice as much per kilowatt hour of capacity, and all you're going to get is a fixed return, and yields on bonds go up, perhaps dramatically if you get high inflation, is not going to do that well in an inflationary period, just because it has certain aspects of a bond-like investment, and bonds generally are not going to do well in inflation. Charlie?
Well, but like our insurance operations, our capital-intensive railroad business is certainly one of the best railroads in the world, and our utility operations are certainly one of the best utility operations in the world. And so it isn't all bad to be up there world class in your main businesses.
Our railroad, the government's talked about building a high-speed rail system in California. I think they're talking about 800 miles of track. And their estimated cost was about $43 billion, and estimated costs on constructions of things like that go up dramatically, much more often than they get reduced even by a minor amount. And of course we paid $43 billion, counting debt assumed, for a rail system which has 22,000 miles of main track and 6,000 plus locomotives and 13,000 bridges if you ever want to buy a bridge. So that the replacement value of that asset during inflationary already is huge, and it would grow dramatically. And the world, our country, will always need rail transportation. So it is a terrific asset to own. I'll just leave it at that.